She was the most beautiful witch I'd ever seen. Not that I'd seen many. But Sara? Black hair wild around her face, blue eyes that seemed to see right through you. Even with rope burns on her neck and her dress torn from the mob, she was stunning. They were going to hang her in Silver Ridge, Montana. 1878, accused of witchcraft. The whole town gathered to watch. I was just a drifter. Should have kept riding. But when they put that noose around her neck, when she looked out at the crowd with those eyes, I couldn't look away. I drew my gun. Chaos erupted. I cut her down, threw her on my horse, and we ran. If you're ready for this tale, hit that subscribe button. We rode hard. My horse, both of us, racing through the Montana wilderness with half the town chasing us. Sara didn't speak, just held on tight, her torn white dress flying in the wind, that rope mark red and angry on her pale neck. Behind us I could hear them, shouting, gunshots, the sheriff's voice calling for blood. "They'll kill us both," I said. She finally spoke. Her voice was quiet but steady. "No, they won't." I didn't know what she meant. Not yet. We rode until nightfall, deep into the mountains where they couldn't follow easily. And that's when things started to get strange. I tried to build a fire. My hands were shaking, tired, cold. The matches wouldn't light. "Let me," Sara said. She knelt by the wood, didn't use matches, just held her hands over the kindling and whispered something I couldn't understand. The fire burst to life, not slowly, instantly, like she'd commanded it. I stared at her. "How did you—" "Coincidence," she said. But those blue eyes told a different story. That's when I started to wonder. Maybe the town hadn't been wrong about her. Second night, they found us. 10 men, armed, led by Sheriff Harrison. They surrounded our camp at dawn. "It's over, Brennan," the sheriff called. "Hand her over. We'll let you walk away." I looked at Sara. She stood slowly. That torn dress, those dark eyes, the rope marks still visible on her throat. "Stay back," I said to the men. But Sara stepped forward, raised her hands, and spoke words that made my blood run cold. The ground shook, the trees bent, and every one of those men stumbled backward in fear. That's when I knew for certain Sara wasn't just accused of being a witch. She was one. Silver Ridge, Montana territory. 1878. A small mining town trying to survive in the wilderness. They'd had a hard year. Crops failed. Cattle died. The preacher's wife got sick and never recovered. And the town needed someone to blame. Sara had arrived 6 months earlier. Young, beautiful, kept to herself. She knew herbs, could heal minor wounds, seemed to know things she shouldn't know. When bad things started happening, the town decided she was the cause. Witchcraft, black magic, devil worship. The trial took 1 day. The verdict was unanimous. Death by hanging. And I rode into town just in time to watch. My name's Cole Brennan, 34 years old. Been drifting across Montana and Wyoming for the better part of a decade. I'm not a hero, not an outlaw either. Just a man trying to make a living doing ranch work, odd jobs, whatever pays. I'd seen hangings before, seen men swing for murder, for theft, for crimes they did and didn't commit. The frontier wasn't kind to the accused, but I'd never seen a woman hanged. And when I saw Sara standing on that platform, something in me said this was wrong. Maybe it was the way she didn't beg. Maybe it was those blue eyes. Or maybe it was just that I'd been alone too long and made a stupid decision. Either way, I saved her. And that decision changed everything. Sara was 26 years old. Black hair that fell in waves past her shoulders. Blue eyes so dark they looked almost purple. Pale skin that seemed to glow in firelight. The mob had torn her dress when they dragged her to the hanging tree. White fabric ripped at the shoulders, the neckline damaged, the skirt torn. She looked like she'd been through hell, but she was still beautiful, dangerously beautiful. She didn't tell me much about herself, where she came from, how she'd learned what she knew, whether she really was a witch or just knew things others didn't. All I knew was that she was different, and that difference had nearly gotten her killed. The question I couldn't answer: had I saved an innocent woman? Or freed something dangerous? The trial had been quick, too quick. "She cursed my crops," one farmer said. "Nothing grew this year, not since she arrived." "My cattle died," another claimed. "All 20 head. Healthy one day, dead the next. She did it." "The preacher's wife," an old woman testified. Sara looked at her. Just looked at her. And 3 days later, she was dead. Sara didn't defend herself, didn't speak at all. Just stood there with those blue eyes, watching them condemn her. The judge asked if she had anything to say. Would it matter? She'd replied. It wouldn't have. The verdict was decided before the trial began. When a town needs a witch, they'll find one. Second night, after the mob had been driven away by Sara's power, we made camp deeper in the mountains. I couldn't sleep. Kept thinking about what I'd seen, the way she'd made the ground shake, the fear in those men's eyes. Around midnight, I heard them. Wolves, circling our camp, at least 6 of them, yellow eyes gleaming in the darkness. I reached for my rifle. "Don't," Sara said quietly. She stood, walked to the edge of our firelight, and spoke to them. Not in English, in something older, something that made my skin crawl. The wolves stopped. Saturday. And after a moment, they turned and left. "Sara," I said, "what are you?" She looked at me with those dark blue eyes. "What do you think I am?" I didn't answer, because I was starting to believe everything the town had said. Third day. We were far from Silver Ridge now, deep in the Montana wilderness where no one would find us. I should have felt safe, but I didn't. I watched Sara from across our camp. She sat by the fire, her torn dress dirty from days of travel, that rope mark still visible on her neck. She looked fragile, vulnerable. But I'd seen what she could do. Had I made a mistake? Had I freed something dangerous? The town had wanted to hang her for witchcraft, and she was a witch. They'd been right. So what did that make me? A fool who saved a monster? Or a man who saved someone who deserved to live, regardless of what she was? I didn't know anymore, and that doubt was eating me alive. That night, Sara finally spoke. "You want to know if they were right about me?" she said. "Yes." They were. She stared into the fire. "I am what they said. A witch. Born with power I didn't ask for. Abilities I've spent my life hiding. Did you curse their crops? Kill their cattle? No. That was bad luck and poor farming. But when bad things happen, people need someone to blame. And I'm different. So I became their monster. The fire. The wolves. The way you stopped those men. Real," she interrupted. "All of it. I have power. I've always had it. And I've spent my whole life pretending I don't. Because people like you fear what they don't understand." She looked at me. "So yes, Cole. They were right. I'm a witch. The question is, does that mean I deserve to die?" And I didn't have an answer. Fourth morning, they found us again. Not 10 men this time. 30. The entire town, it seemed. Armed with rifles, torches, rope. They'd tracked us through the mountains. Sheriff Harrison led them. "There's nowhere left to run, Brennan. Hand her over. Last chance." I looked at Sara. She stood beside me, her torn white dress fluttering in the wind, those blue eyes calm. "What do we do?" I asked. "We give them a choice," she said. She stepped forward. raised her hands. And this time, she didn't hold back. The sky darkened. Wind howled. The ground beneath our feet trembled. Trees bent and cracked. And for a moment, I saw what she truly was. Not a monster, not evil, just power. Raw, ancient, terrifying power. The mob stopped. Fear replaced their anger. "Go home," Sara said. Her voice carried across the mountain. "Leave me be, or face what I can do." For a long moment, no one moved. Then, one by one, they turned. And they left. The witch hunt was over. Because they'd finally met a real witch. After they left, Sara turned to me. "You should go too," she said. "Back to your life. I'll be fine." "Where will you go?" "North. Canada, maybe. Somewhere they don't burn witches." She smiled sadly. "Somewhere I can be what I am without fear." I should have left. Should have ridden back to Silver Ridge, collected my horse, and forgotten this ever happened. But I didn't. "I'll come with you," I said. She looked surprised. "Why?" "You saw what I am. You know what I can do." "I do. And I also saw a woman who didn't deserve to hang, who used her power to defend herself, not harm others, who's been running her whole life just for being different." I stepped closer. "The town was right about one thing. You're a witch. But they were wrong about what that means. You're not evil. You're just different." For the first time since I'd met her, Sara smiled. A real smile. "You're either very brave or very stupid, Cole Brennan." "Probably both," I admitted. We rode north together, away from Silver Ridge, away from the hanging tree, away from the fear and the hatred. I don't know what the future holds. Traveling with a witch probably means more trouble, more towns that won't understand, more mobs that want her dead. But here's what I learned in those 4 days. Sometimes the accused are guilty, and sometimes that doesn't matter. Sara was a witch. The town was right about that. But being different isn't a crime, and having power doesn't make you evil. She'd spent her whole life hiding what she was, running, afraid. And when they finally caught her, when that rope was around her neck, she'd looked at me with those blue eyes and silently asked for help. And I'd helped. Not because I knew she was innocent, but because no one deserves to die for being born different. Partner, if this story meant something to you, hit that subscribe button. Leave a comment telling me where you're listening from. And remember, the real monsters aren't always the ones with power. Sometimes they're the ones holding the rope. Until next time, may your trails be clear and your judgments fair.